Welcome to Designs by Diane. Today we're going to make a tube strip pieced quilt similar to the one behind me. Come along and let's get busy quilting. The pattern I've designed today uses 36 blocks that are half strips and half solid, using a diagonal line to divide the block. We're going to cut all of our blocks and then arrange them into this pattern. Every other pattern is a spool, and the opposite one we've turned the blocks the other way to make more of an open pattern. You can turn these blocks any way you would like to design the pattern, but today we're going to work with this one. The entire quilt will be a lap size. Remember, you need 2 darks and 1 light, and we'll get busy preparing our fabrics now. For this pattern you will need 2 darks and 1 light. I have chosen this brown, this blue, and then a color that has some activity going on with it. It's lighter, but it has some of the brown in it, and it goes with the blue well, but it gives it some action. So try to pick prints maybe that have more, they may be one color, but they have a lot of activity going on, and it will give your quilt a lot more motion. Now, to start out with for this pattern, I need to cut strips of my fabric from each one of these. I need 5 brown, 5 blue, and 10 of the light color. So we're going to square up our fabric and start cutting our strips, and then we'll get them sewn into strip sets and cut our blocks from that. I do want to remind you of a few things. If you have a large piece of fabric, nick it with your cutter and tear it so that you have an amount that you can work with and it's not huge. Also, we have to get our fabric squared up to get ready to cut. If it has wrinkles in it or a crease in it that's not allowing you to work with it well, open it completely out and iron it flat, and then you can come back and find how to get it squared up, and it will hang better when you work with it. So we'll get busy with that now. To get my fabric ready to cut, I'm going to put the selvages, the part with the writing or the little holes or whatever, get those 2 even at the top. Make sure they are even with each other. And hold your fabric up and make sure that it hangs straight. If it hangs straight at the bottom without any pleats, you're good. If it's got a blousy effect, you need to slide your layers left or right until you get them straight. Now I'm going to put this fabric down here with the selvages up there at the top, grab the bottom where it folds, and bring it up to within the same distance of the top of the selvages. Now I don't care if it's a ½ an inch, whatever it is, as long as it's the same all the way across. When we do that, we know we're going to have a squared up piece of fabric. Now, I'm going to take my ruler, and I can do this either way, but if you need to flip it around, you do that. I want to make sure all 4 edges are sticking out past this ruler. If you're left-handed, this is how you would do it. Hold your ruler in place. Get your line down here, even with the bottom of your fabric. Hold your ruler in place and trim off that rough edge. I'm right-handed, but I've just done, it just saves turning it around so many times. Now for this pattern, I manipulated it to where it came out to a 6-inch block. You need to cut strips, and this is going to check your math and your ruler abilities. 1 5/8, that's the first notch after 1 1/2 on most rulers. 1 5/8 inch wide. I'm going to cut 5 from the brown, 5 from the blue, and 10 from the light fabric, and then we'll cut our blocks. So cut your strips from your brown, your blue, and your light. You should have 5 brown, 5 blue, and 10 light, and then we'll get busy from there. I've cut my strips now, and I've put them in the order that I want them. I want the brown on the outside, and I have to alternate with my lighter shades. So I've got the brown in my light and then my blue in my light. If you would rather have more blue in your quilt, swap to where the blue is on the outside edge of the strip set. It's up to you when you use these colors, and use any colors you want as long as you've got 2 darks and a light. But we're going to sew these together in a strip set in this order. Now when you sew them together, make sure that one end is pretty much at a 90-degree angle and the other end is going to be ragged, but we want one end pretty much squared off. So start at the same end when you're sewing. This is only 4 strips, so it will be okay. So we'll go to the sewing machine now. Now I'm at the sewing machine and I have my 4 strips in the order that I want them. My method that works for me is to take the first light to the left and put it onto the first dark. So your brown is the left edge fabric and your light is next. I just like to do it this way. I've done it a long time and this method works for me. But I'm going to put the light on the dark each time and I know they'll be in the right order. I'm going to get the right edge and the top even on these strips so that when I start sewing I know everything is right. Now I'm going to pull my threads out here and hold them where they will not get jerked down into the machine and start sewing. As I sew along, I come down here as far as I can on the bed of my machine and get these edges even. Then don't watch your needle. Watch where your fabric is supposed to ride across to get that scant 1/4 inch seam until you go that far. Stop with your needle down, even if you have to hand crank it. Come down here, get it even again, and put your fingers on it. And sew that far. Now I'm going to complete this one. Then I'm going to turn the next light over onto the blue and do the same thing. And then I'll show you how to iron them. I'm going to take my strip and put it, we have the blue on one side and the light on the other. I want my seams to go toward the dark on this particular pattern. My seam line is right here. I want my seam line on the side toward me so that it will open this way. That's just easier for me. I have found it works better. And I love steam. A lot of people go, oh, don't steam. I love steam. Except when you're doing bias edges. And then you have to be careful. Now I steam it flat and then I bump it open. You don't want to just iron it open and hope you got it all. You'll have pleats in it. Now we're going to have to go back to the sewing machine and sew this seam in the center so that we have all 4 together. We want, on my quilt, I want brown light, blue light. If you wanted it the opposite way, you would sew them this way where you had blue light, brown light. But I've gotten this pattern this way, so I'm going to go to my sewing machine now and sew these together while I have one big strip set.